here's a brand that's sort of progressive enough to sort of reach out to me and include me into the whole, into their fold, right? At a ₹1 price point. And I mean, it's more of a, they didn't want to give it free because everyone would avail of it. So the consumer had to make a small sort of effort, and it was delivered cash on delivery. So,
okay, so
that's an interesting one that we saw just like very recent, that's what 10 days old. But I think a bunch of other brands have done a good job of it. So whether if you look at a lot of your QSRs, so whether it's McDonald's that we handle or Domino's that Group M does, I think there's there's a practice that's built out. I mean, almost like a supply chain sort of Six Sigma practice in terms of ensuring that you get the entire piece, right, from order all the way to delivery to remarketing to the whole life cycle mapped out. So I mean, that's some of it. I'm sure on the FMCG side, the pure, the staples as you call it, they have a different story to tell.
At the same time, most of the brands in India, I think, are fighting with the situation that if they get onto the e-commerce, what happens with the retail distribution scenario, right? I think that is the biggest challenge that the brands are always coming back to us, especially the traditional brands, whether consumer durables or FMCG, saying that if we are onto e-commerce, what price point do we sell it at? What is the advantage for the consumer? Why would consumers buy versus, let's say, from a marketplace where my products are already being sold, whether I want it or not, right? And then what does my distributor say? For brands which are pure play or getting purely launched on e-commerce without a distribution network, Motorola is a good example recently. Therefore, they are striking it rich because for them there is no backlog or back end that they need to take care of. I think that's one challenge I would like to put on the table to discuss in terms of how the brands look at it.
In India, there's going to be an interesting meeting point on where they would meet and the role that traditional retail would play, because traditional retail has been fairly the driver of the business from a distribution standpoint, and given the size of the country, it is inevitable. It's just inevitable. You can never kind of get around that. The role of modern trade, I think, will start to get little redefined, okay, while this meeting point starts to happen. So I see that as a play in the FMCG space. It's not going to be so much brand, but the minute you start moving to some other categories, okay, I think the roles will start changing, because you will start looking at this whole e-com landscape and say what channel, it's going to more be like a channel strategy. How am I going to use this channel in terms of, am I going to build my brand on brand.com, okay, build volumes on pure play, okay, build my relationship and delivery or coexistence with the others, which is traditional retail, because I need to somewhere ensure that all of them coexist. So depending on which category I am, it may just kind of keep moving. FMCG is likely to be very, very pure play, but chances are something like an apparel, okay, I think it is going to go the other way around.
At Nestle, we strongly believe that e-commerce will redefine how FMCG is consumed.
Wow.
Okay. We segment the whole e-commerce space into 3 parts. Okay, one is what we say brand.coms, which are our own platforms. The other is what we say pureplayer.com, which is the Amazons, Flipkarts of the world. The third is what we say brickandmortar.com, which is walmart.com. So. The best example for brand.com has been Nespresso. If you guys are aware of it, it's a coffee solution that we sell across the world. It's a huge business for us, and almost all of our products are actually sold online, and it's sold online worldwide, right? Having said that, I think our general view is that the world is moving towards pure players and pure players and brickandmortars.com, and we want to move there as well. Brick and mortars tend to be easier play for us because we already have relationship with Walmart, hence it's easier for us to work with Walmart.com.
As a cliche, I think the rules have always been reset by anything e-commerce, right? And whether it's what you do with the brand or what you do with the business itself. I think Dollar Shave Club came in and took on the might of Gillette and said, you know what, men, you're suckers. You're paying $19 more for a razor than you should be doing. And they created a whole new business model of only e-commerce home delivery razors with per month subscription based model. Okay, but that was only the business side of it. But the brand side of it was as fascinating because the CEO of this startup, DollarShaveClub.com, starred in his own ad that was released only once on YouTube got over 10 million hits, and business hit the ground, or hit the sky running, I would say. And he's since expanded the line of products, of male grooming products, to include, it's called butt wipes. Charlie, one white Charlie, butt wipes for men, right? And is similarly irreverent in brand tonality, but especially similarly irreverent in taking on the biggies.
My strategy was to acquire customers through Flipkart, later on woo them back to my site and so forth.
All right.
But we see this across all apparel and all high fashion, high consideration segments, that people are trying to say, like, whether it's Polyword where you can mix and match your clothes, or other things like Lenskart where you can literally try on different frames. Everybody is trying to get people to those experiences, which is like as good as you would have in a vertical store, but somehow better, or somehow more convenient. And I think that's kind of where the magic is being created. And who knows if whether it's FMCG or something else, maybe there's some way to convey like that smell or that touch in a way that you couldn't do right now.
I think there's a fourth category as well, which we've not really covered, which is you've got the brand, the pure play, and the brick and mortar. There's also the rise of these marketplaces of like the Shop Clues, Snapdeals of the world, which are they're kind of like a pure play, but at the back end they're actually a marketplace of hundreds of brick and mortars, and brick and mortars are bidding for the customer essentially. So I look for a Sony TV and it says I've got these 10 suppliers of those Sony TVs, and this one can do it for that price, and this one's that quality, and it's another sort of stream of sort of they're not directly doing the transactions, it's sort of they're facilitating the transaction instead. So
it's just taking you there.
Taking you there, and those the rise of those, like so we work with Shop Clues for example, and the growth of Shop Clues is phenomenal. It's like, but I guess it's part of that whole e-com piece, but they're doing not only are they doing them, it's pure play, but it's comparison as well. So and that's at every single product level. So it doesn't matter whether it's a Sony TV or whether it's a Nivea hand cream. It's sort of everything is being compared, and the delivery is facilitated by the actual brick and mortar at the back end.